In the last video that I posted, I mentioned some things about like the bottles that we made. I made some bottles where they would be crimped at the top, and the bottles would go thick and then thin, and then that was to break them off. And they would be scored, so you could break them off in the old days, and that was for bottles that would be shipped like overseas to America. Like they'd be bottled in another country, and then they'd be loaded on ships, and then be shipped overseas. And it was so someone would have to melt the top and then and then reclose it to actually fill it in there, or change the fluid amount in there. And I think that might have been for lithium or cocaine or something, some drug or something. Mostly I was putting my name on the bottle, or the bottles were mine, coming from my factory, and people were buying them overseas, and I wanted to make sure that when they got to overseas that they had the exact same fluid amount or the exact same ingredients as when they left the factory. So the only way to guarantee it back then was to basically melt the top basically in a certain way, and then ship it overseas, and then they could break it over there, or just open it up over there, and then so you know in a in a time of swindlers, and a time of people like doing things like if your fluids went out, or your bottles went out, somebody could open up the top, pour it out, and then pour water in there, and ruin your name, or just make an extra buck, or make a little bit more. And I wanted to guarantee that when my bottles got to where they were going, that they were exactly the same way as when they left the factory. So the only way I could do that, of course, was to make sure that the bottles were tamper-proof. So I played around with a couple different things. Like I say, my ships actually had storm ratings. Like when my ships were built, it'd be like, okay, it's good for the storm and those kind of ways, but not good for these other kind. So every ship was guaranteed for a certain C rating. Everything was guaranteed, or as guaranteed as I could make it, and my people could make it. I was very fussy about my name, and very fussy about the kind of things that I built, or that were built, using my designs. And my designs were always like really well thought out, really well built buildings. And my people kind of like worked hard to reinforce that as well, because my people had a lot of pride in my buildings as well. I mean, I was paying for a lot of things, and so I didn't want my name or my reputation messed up by that. So like a lot of my buildings were hailed as stormproof, or impossible to fall down. I mean, and even huge earthquakes wouldn't even phase most of my buildings. My buildings were built very strong, like with walls that were like 6 feet thick of solid brick or whatever. Like when you got one of my buildings, you knew that you were safe from almost anything. So anyway, and I worked very hard for that. Like my buildings went through many storms. My ships, like for fun, I would order that my ships were taken out to sea, where a storm was going to hit, or going to hit, and I would have them anchor my ships out there, just to test the lines on the anchor ropes, as well as test the ships themselves. And I would tell them to just leave them out there, no crew on board. No, I didn't want them bailed out. I wanted them to just sit out there empty, during like hurricane kind of storm conditions. This is the way I built my ships. And if my ships didn't sink, then they were good enough to be built. And those were the kind of ships I built. So, and people heard about that, of course. I mean, like I say, my ships were legendary. I mean, that's what I did for fun. And to provide some sort of security to my people, that when they bought one of my ships, they could ride out big storms, in them, and be safe, as long as they had a competent captain. That's probably why I gained so much popularity, why I became so wealthy, why I had so many shipyards, because my ship designs were infallible, as they say. That's why they called the Titanic unsinkable, really, is because that ship design would have been tested out in a Category 5 hurricane and survived. So they knew that ship was seaworthy. I actually kind of pioneered the whole term seaworthy because I had seaworthy tests. And if my ships didn't survive a huge hurricane, then they weren't good enough, and they had to be made better. And that's exactly what they did. Anyway, I had very good people, and my people, when they were building these ships, and because other people heard about the way my people were building the ships, my ships were world famous. I mean, people would only buy my ships, I think, because they were so good. I only built good ships, and the same thing goes for the kinds of elixirs that my people manufactured in my name. That my researchers would research, purify, and then sell. If you bought one of my bottles of cocaine or one of my elixirs or one of my bottles of lithium, 7-Up bottles or whatever, you knew you were getting the real deal and not just some watered down junk. You know, because I was very fussy about it, extremely fussy about it. I went through all kinds of different ridiculous bottle types to make sure that the bottle could not be opened until it reached its destination. And if it had been opened, someone would know. So, and you still see that today when you open up a Pepsi bottle and the little ring, you have the little ring at the bottom that you have to break, and how it goes, shh, and you know that bottle was not opened beforehand. You're the first person opening that bottle. A lot of the things I was doing, a lot of the things I pioneered, being like Bush, those things are you still see them because those were my companies. And my companies did really well because people knew when they opened up, when they bought one of my products or a product made by one of my companies, that they were getting the real product. In fact, like you might even say I pioneered the whole term real product because, in a world of people trying to make a little extra money, I didn't have to make a little bit of money. I just wanted to sell what I was selling. I just wanted to make sure that the people had some guarantee that they were getting the real product and not just something watered down. So anyway, hundreds of years later, or whatever time later, you still see that I became my people, my companies did really, really well. So anyway, though, but and a lot of things, like I pioneered the term seaworthy, stormproof, safety shelter. A lot of my designs, a lot of the things, they still use them today. They're still around. And a lot of even my old buildings. They use them as churches now and call them churches. They were really just old factories that I built that were really, 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 really well built. Or tests, like a tower test. I did a lot of tower tests too, like build a tower, see how long it lasts. Is it still standing? Oh, cool, awesome. And all that kind of stuff. And just designing things. I was really big on that. Anyway, so, anyway, it's funny that they call it this group, that group, and it was really like me and my researchers. It was me at some point in the past doing my thing. Building somewhere around like 1200, like I was around like at 0 year to 7 year to 89 year, the Colosseum, that kind of stuff. That was all my kind of stuff. So anyway, it's kind of funny, but yeah. Anyway, I don't know how I lived this long or how that much time passed. I don't know. Maybe my constant inventing and constantly changing the world had some sort of weird effect where I didn't really age and the rest of the world did. I don't know. I don't really care. It's like, it's the truth. I'm kind of upset a little bit that more people didn't really remember me or know me, but because I was this great force, behind so many things. But anyway.